You're listening to the Bulldog Hour, getting you inside the Wilson football program with weekly game previews, recaps, highlights, and interviews. Now, here are your hosts, Joe Mays and Justin Raffoff.
Well, good evening, everyone, and welcome to episode 2 of the Bulldog Hour's 5th season. I am one of your hosts, Joe Mays, and sitting next to me is my co-host, Justin Raffoff.
Yeah, it's good to be back. It's been a little bit since we talked Wilson football on the show. I feel like it has been. Maybe it hasn't been that long.
Yeah, it's been 2 months. It was
Yeah.
February, so we'd like to check in every now and again.
It's also hard to keep track because, like, not just this one. We talk about this a lot, like on a lot of the things we do, but the conversations we have aren't all that different from, like, when we record, aren't really all that different from the conversations we just have all the time.
Right.
It is a little difficult to keep track sometimes. Like, did we talk about that on a show, or was that just us talking?
Right.
Like,
Yeah.
so-
Sometimes it all runs together, and we don't quite recall. But it's been 2 months since we talked
I'm old.
Wilson football on the air, at least. So here we are again to address some of the things that have happened since the end of February, which, you know, to be honest, isn't that much. There isn't a whole bunch of new stuff going on surrounding the Wilson football program, but we're going to touch on some things. A lot of announcements, kind of program housekeeping, getting some information out there. But we do have one cool thing we're going to do this evening, and that is we're going to showcase the helmet that the team will be wearing this fall. And why is it any different than any other year? They're not, they're not undergoing a drastic change. Like the logo, isn't changing. The base logo isn't changing. Things like that. There isn't going to be. It's not a red helmet or anything like that. Nothing crazy. It's just they're celebrating a special year because, well, it's the 75th season. 2019 is the 75th season of Wilson football. So there's going to be just little things throughout the year to, honor and dedicate the season, kind of celebrate the past, present, and future of the program. And one of those ways to do it is little tweaks to the uniform or the helmet, and that's the route that the team went. And the, I guess, kind of final sample arrived, and Matt Bender sent me some pictures of it, and I was like, well, we got to get this out to the world. And I waited a few days. I know I've had it for a little bit. I showed Justin recently, but not too many other people that have seen it. I know a few have, obviously. I'm sure some of the coaches have already seen it. I'm not sure about the players. I honestly don't know. I don't know if the players have seen it yet. I don't know if they have any information on the helmet as it is or as it's going to be. But in a little bit, we will be showing that off. Hopefully everyone really likes it. But the rest of the things that we're going to be talking about this evening are almost recaps or adding some additional info to a lot of the stuff that we talked about last time we were on the air 2 months ago. And that revolves around the Lancaster-Lebanon League realignment and future schedules. Now we're going to talk about this season's schedule and 2020. We're going to talk about the recruiting cycle that's coming up now, because we talked about 2019, those seniors that are graduating in June and have committed to play athletically in college, can continue their academic career, as well as playing some athletics, both football, and we had a few lacrosse as well. And we already documented that. So we're going to talk this evening about the seniors to be, the rising seniors.
I think Isaiah was in the paper today for, like, how they do the recruiting. They every now and then they throw one out there.
Okay.
Like football college bound.
Yeah.
I think Isaiah was in there today.
Oh, great.
Yeah.
I didn't see that. So I will have to check that out. So before we do that, just kind of our standard announcements here. We want to make sure that you're following us and getting updates from us whenever you can. So make sure that you like the Bulldog Hour on Facebook, as well as the main Wilson Bulldogs football page. Follow us on Twitter at Bulldog Hour, at Mr. Raffoff, and at Coach Joe Mays. And on Instagram as well, the main Wilson account is at Wilson Bulldogs Football, and our show account is at Bulldog Hour. And you definitely want to be hitting up BulldogHour.com throughout the season in particular, but the off season as well. I keep that updated and post announcements there, including a lot of what we're going to be talking about this evening. elsewhere here at the show, we want to thank our sponsors. We're going to do a little bit of a reset here. It's been a while since we have talked about the sponsors in any major capacity, and it's been a while. It's a new season, so we just want to thank May's Sandwich Shop for continuing their sponsorship and everyone that has helped donate to us in the past. A lot of individuals, almost all of them, always want to remain anonymous, so we're not going to put their names out there, but we appreciate everyone that has helped us in the past and is helping us again this year. And there are many ways that you can support us here at the show, including sponsorships and advertising, in-kind donations. And I mentioned the website. That's a great place to see that you're enjoying our content. The more hits there, the better. And then, like we mentioned every time, and it's Justin's favorite, spreading the word.
Yeah, like and share, right?
Just get our name out there and let people know about us. We hear people all the time, like pretty much every game that we're at, people come up to and say, oh, we didn't know that you're the ones that did this, or someone sent me your recent video and it was great, keep up the good work. And that's all because people, like and share, just let people know, whether it's through social media or it's by mouth or email or whatever. Just let people know, let football fans know that we're out here and continue to support us in that way, and we truly appreciate it. Our next show will be kind of the calm before the storm. It'll be the last kind of off-season update. While the kids will be full on in their summer program, they're not quite there where people are really, the general public is quite thinking about Wilson football at the end of June. But there's going to be a lot that have happened between now and then, so we will have another live show 2 months from now on Sunday, June 23rd at 8:30, and we will be talking about it, really recapping some of the things that we're going to preview this evening and let you know are happening in the next 2 months. And lastly, the final two things, the fundraisers that continue to go on. Game USB drives and DVD sales are available, as are the game used jerseys. All this information can be found on bulldoghour.com. Just go to the store, the shop, the merchandise, all that good stuff can be found at bulldoghour.com. And besides those two fundraisers, there's also team and program merchandise available as well. Bulldog Hour shirts, some Wilson football tees, and a variety of things. So if you're interested in any of that, check that out. Or if you'd like to see them in person, all the stock I have is available at May's Sandwich Shop to buy. Unfortunately, cash only, because that's the way we got to operate with a business inside a business, I guess, is the way that works out. So we gotta keep that to cash because I don't have a way to take credit card. But you can always email me, joe@bulldoghour.com, or send an email to wilsonbulldogsfootball@gmail.com, and I will get back to you as soon as possible. 2019 schedule shouldn't be anything new. We've been talking about it for the better part of 5 months now. Heat week, heat acclimatization will start August 5th. The 3-a-day summer camp will start August 12th, with the first scrimmage being against Parkland at home this year on August 17th. That's a Saturday. It usually starts in the mid-morning around 10 o'clock. The regular season will kick off the next Friday, August 23rd, also at Gursky Stadium against Central Dauphin. So that is a great kickoff game. And then we get to come back the next week during Labor Day weekend. This year, Mifflin will be played in Shillington on August 30th. Wilson stays on the road for game number 3, September 6th at Springford. And that will be the last meeting with the Springford Rams for probably the next 2 years at least, because of LL realignment and other things going on. Springford won't be on the schedule in 2020 and 2021, at least last I knew. Then September 13th will be the mandated LL Section 1 versus Section 2 crossover game, once again against the Manheim Central Barons, but they will come to Gursky Stadium this year for the 4th game of the season on Friday, September 13th. League play starts the next week at Millersville to take on Penn Manor, and the games will alternate home and away from then on out, where at Penn Manor the 20th, host Manheim Township the 27th. October 4th, we'll travel to Hempfield. Then on October 11th, the game versus Warwick is at home at Gursky, and that is the 75th season celebration weekend. We'll talk more about that in a little bit, but October 11th and October 12th, you definitely want to have marked on your calendar for events that you don't want to miss related to the Wilson football program. October 18th, Wilson goes to Cedar Crest, followed by the home finale and senior night against McCaskey on October 25th. As far as I know, the playoffs are going to follow the same schedule as last year, meaning District 3 6A will have 3 rounds with the quarters, semis, and championship the 1st, 8th, and 15th of November, followed by a week off, and then the state playoffs will resume on November 30th with the state final December 7th. So that just gives you an idea of what's going to be happening across Pennsylvania high school football once the regular season ends at the end of October. Anything jump out to you there, Justin, about the 2019 schedule?
Just a couple things, when you look, that non-league schedule again is going to be tough. And I know that's kind of something that's talked about every year. Just with that schedule and kind of how, Central Dauphin is going to be primed and ready to go. Going to Mifflin is not going to be any easy task. And then, going to Springford is not going to be easy. Again, they make districts pretty much every year down there. Like, that non-league schedule. Oh, and then to top that off, you have your mandated crossover game against Manheim Central, who is, probably the heavy favorite to win Section 2.
Right.
It's just...
Yeah, not an easy task.
Right, that first half of the schedule. And then, you top that off, you have your Section 1 opponents that, like Township and Hempfield and all those teams. I was thinking, like, as I look at the dates, I'm like, man, we, due to some crazy circumstances, we had to drive the equipment truck to the McKessie game last year.
Right, yeah.
And, like, everybody was asking me, like, what's your plan if your wife goes into labor? I'm like, we've got time. She had the baby a few days later.
Yeah, it was like 3 days later.
Yeah, so we did not actually have all that
not
much
a lot
more
of time. No,
and so, like, when I saw the date on the schedule this year, I know the date's not exactly the same from one year to the next, but it's usually only off a day.
Day.
Right.
Yeah.
So, because it wasn't leap year, so I'm just like...
Next year. Leap year next year.
Yeah, so I'm like, man, we really did not have that much time. But
doesn't matter.
Right.
Past Justin did okay.
Right, exactly.
Future Justin is not paying for the sins of past Justin, so we're good to go. We're good to go.
But yeah, so I mean, the schedule looks a lot like last year's, but it'll be interesting to kind of see how that plays out over, over the summer and as things develop and as you get a look for our team and as you start to hear things about those other teams. But like we said, the first couple weeks, especially that first week, is always such a... I think teams have made the adjustment to playing that first week. I know what used to be 0 week, like last year was our first year playing that. This year it'll be interesting to see, but it's a different team. So it's hard to say, like, if anything we see that's different this year could be attributed to us having a better grasp of what that does to the team, or if it's just different because it's a different team, like I don't know that there's no really correlation or even causation there at all, but it'll just be interesting to see how things play out in that early season, against that tough schedule.
Yeah, it is a great schedule. Again, the second year in a 2-year cycle, is it shocking? When we debuted it a year plus ago for the current 2-year cycle for the start in 2018, we got to see that Mifflin wasn't the first game anymore, right, and then Manheim Central was on the schedule. So that was interesting. This year, you're just flip-flopping home and away from last year. The
Manheim Central ones are interesting because while no one involved, like, in the teams necessarily wants that game, like Manheim Central isn't fond of that game. I know Wilson's probably not real fond of that game, and they're both rather outspoken about it. Everybody that's, like, paying to watch football on Friday nights is very intrigued by that game,
right?
Yeah. and so right. It's one of those things that's kind of interesting when it comes to that standpoint. So
yeah. So all right, well, that is the 2019 schedule, and again, I mentioned the game against Warwick, week 8 or game 8, October 11th. That game's at Gursky, and that is the night that the Tradition Club and the football team are going to be celebrating the 75th season. That's the big event. Friday night against Warwick, the Tradition Club will be welcoming back the 5 previous champions from years that ended in 9, so 1969, 1979, 1989, 1999, and 2009 championship teams will be honored during that game against Warwick. So if you are a member of that team, and it's not just the seniors, it's anyone on that team, coaches, players, trainers, managers, whatever. If you're a member of one of those teams, 79, 89, 99, 09, I missed 69, you're welcome to come back and reach out to the Tradition Club. Send me an email, wilsonbulldogsfootball@gmail.com, and just tell us that you're going to come back and celebrate with us. And then the next day, with the Saturday, the day after the Warwick game, is going to be the alumni flag football game and an evening reception for members past and present of the football program. So this is a big event. It is a fundraiser, so we're trying to raise funds for the program. So there is going to be tickets and a gate fee. There's going to be merchandise and concessions available, but it's going to be a lot of fun. We have a variety of people coming back to play in the game and to organize the game. It's going to be a lot of fun. It's Saturday, October 12th at Gursky Stadium. We're going to kick things off at 6 o'clock. However, gates will open a little earlier at 4:30. There's going to be time to meet some of the players, take photos, maybe get some autographs, just kind of hang out, have a good time, see some people you haven't seen in a while. And then we'll play a flag football game. It'll be about an hour and a half to 2 hours long. And here are some of the players. If you're watching, you can see them. This is also posted online as well. These are the current people that are committed to play in the game on Saturday, October 12th, to celebrate Wilson football program's 75th season. So we've got about 30 people coming back for now. We're still looking for more. I'd like to get at least another 15 to 20 more people. So if you're a former football player and you would like to get in on this action, again, email me, joe@bulldoghour.com or wilsonbulldogsfootball@gmail.com. All are welcome. Any former player, we'd love to have you back and to suit up one more time, get to play on the Gursky Stadium turf, see some action. And again, if you are a former player, we want you there. I don't care how old you are or how out of shape you think you are, because that was one of the biggest things is people saying, well, I can't do that. I'm not. Does not matter. Come back and play. We're going to organize it so that you're going to compete with people, in the same age group, same generation, are going to go against one another. We're not going to send people out from 1969 against kids that graduated in 2009. That's not how things are going to operate. So please consider playing. It will be a lot of fun, a great time, and it's a fundraiser for the football program. So if there's any other questions about that, let me know, but it's going to be a great time, and we hope to see a lot of you there. Obviously, this is still, just not quite 6 months away, a little less than 6 months away. So we have plenty of time. We haven't opened up ticket sales or anything like that. We're still trying to finalize details, but this is coming, and it's going to be a big event, and we hope everyone will show up and have a great time watching some past coaches and players at the football stadium one more time.
I know you were saying how some of the players are kind of thinking, some of the former players are thinking like, oh man, but like I kind of have some of that feeling as you're reading off lists, and this happened for the first time last year, that I believe, when you were reading off the teams that were like being honored, and last year's 2008 and this one 2009. I'm like,
yeah,
wait, like what? Like that's, yeah, that's like a punch in the gut in a good way, like to honor those guys, but it just makes me feel old.
I know, right? So before we look at the 2020 schedule, let's do the helmet reveal, because I think a lot of people are interested in that, and let's take a look at that. So for the 75th season, a lot of stuff is happening. A lot of things are going to be offered. A lot of that is going to be announced in the next 2 or 3 months. We're getting some of that stuff out there now, but one of the things that just was finalized and is ready to go is going to be the helmet that Wilson is wearing this fall. And I mentioned, if you're just tuning in at the top of the show, this isn't anything extreme. It's not a new base coat. They're not wearing gray or red or black or anything like that. The face masks are staying white. Unfortunately, there will only be one stripe. I tried my best. I know for you old school Wilson football people, you want 3 stripes back on the helmet, and I would have loved to have seen it for 1 year, but the way things are done now, it's just not feasible to do that for one season, and they were not open to that idea. I also would have loved to have seen them go back to gray face masks just for this season, but financially you can't do that for just 1 year, and it's a lot to change over. So the basics are staying the same. It's a white face mask, white helmet, red stripe, and then the 2 logos. But
which I'm the fan of. I like the white face mask.
I know you do. I've
we
come
talk
around
about it. We talk about it all the time.
Yeah.
Like Pretty much every away game.
I've come around on it because I played with the red face mask and I was so used to the red face mask, and then before that it was the gray, so white was new. But it's fine. I don't have any problem with it. I really would have liked to have seen the 3 stripes because that's what I remember seeing, and that's what Wilson had for so many years until they changed to the single stripe. I think in '98. I think Contafio's first year was when the 3 stripes were dropped and the single was adopted, and it's been that way since. So we're working on starting decade 3 of having the single stripe. So unfortunately, no, 3 stripes is not coming back. But what will be different this year is one of the logos on. To me, it looks like it's going to be on the right side of the helmet. The logo will be different. It is not going to be a bulldog. So maybe that'll be a little bit shocking to people. And we're kind of going in a way that other teams have in the past where they have one logo on one side, a different logo on the other side, or one logo and no logo like we see the Steelers do in the NFL. That's not the case. There are 2 logos. It's just they're not the same. One side's one side's the other. So let's take a look at it, and I have pictures that'll zoom in. But this is what the Wilson football helmets will look like this fall to celebrate the 75th season of Wilson football. So like I said, the pictures are going to get bigger here. I'm going to zoom in shortly, but you can see the picture on the right, despite the glare, that is your pretty typical Wilson Bulldog logo, but you'll notice some writing on it. It says 75th season, and we'll get to that in a moment of why that's significant. But on the left-hand side, you see something drastically different, something you haven't seen on a Wilson helmet in probably, well, I know exactly when the last time you saw it was. It was back in 1977. So in the 60s, late 60s, and throughout the 70s, Wilson wore a red football with a white W inside of it. That was on their helmets. So that is what's going to happen this year. Wilson is going to have 2 different logos, one commemorating the 70th season, and then one kind of throwback to just acknowledge the past of Wilson football. So let's take a little bit closer look here now, and you can get a better idea of the design. The logos were researched, and I don't want to say designed by me because I didn't make the art on the one on the left, the W. I commissioned that from a buddy of mine, but I researched and made the one on the right, the 75th season one, and the Wilson W football logo I found in yearbooks and reference photos, which we're going to look at shortly, and that's what we're going to be wearing on Friday nights this fall. Again, I can go a little bit closer just so you can get all the detail. Check it out. The Wilson football W on the right side, the 75th season Bulldog on the left side. Now we'll take a look at inspiration for these. You can see back in 1994 when Wilson was celebrating the 50th season of the team.
Cool. I didn't know that.
Wilson wore what was at the time was a white bulldog with a red outline, and it said 50 years. 1994 was the 50th season of the program. Celebrated, on the shirts and helmets for the year. A lot of these were recycled and made into lamps, and I know Doc has one in his office with an old school helmet, has the 50 years logo on it, and so that's where the inspiration came for the 75th season Bulldog on the right. That's what's going to be worn in 2019. So that's where that came from. If you were wondering, for those people that haven't seen it before. Now the W in the football, there's a reference photo for you. That's from a yearbook. I have plenty others, but that was the best one that I could find, and it was remade as best as possible. It was a little bit smaller back then, but you can clearly see there's 3 stripes in the helmet right there. But yeah, so that is where that comes from, and that's what will be worn on one side of the Wilson football helmets to commemorate the program's 75th season in 2019. So, Justin, what are your takes on that?
I really like it. I like how it's a queer throwback to, many of the years past. You have I was not aware of the 50th season logo. So that's kind of cool. Like, I liked it on its own, the standalone on the 75th, but knowing that is being brought back from 25 years ago, I think that's really cool too. I had seen the football logo with the white W in it before, probably through things where we have been discussing or looking at things, or maybe maybe looking at some of the old plaques, from family members being on some of those teams,
right?
And way back. But I also like that we kept the chrome kind of finish,
right, yep.
that of the more recent teams, so it's not just the straight throwback. It's kind of like blending some of those throwback features, but also adding some of the new features. So with like I said, the stripe thing, I get it, but like I didn't grow up with that. You know what I mean? Like that wasn't really my thing. But I love the white face mask. And I know I mentioned that before. I like the white. I like when they have the all white uniform with the white helmets. But I really like that it's kind of different on both sides. And like you said, it's not some drastic thing. It's not some color, or some really even some like formatting change. And it's to commemorate the season. I think it's a good way to do that.
It's a one-off. Like it's not gonna. This isn't sticking around. The Bulldog will go. Will lose the 75th season mark next in 2020, and it'll be back on the other side as well. The Bulldog will be back. It's just for this 1 year, so it's just a nice way to mark the celebration and to bring back something from over 40 years ago. And it was cool. It was fun to design. It was fun to work with Matt Bender and the team, and just kind of being like, hey, look what I made here. Are you interested in this? Yeah. Like, do you want to use this for anything? Wouldn't this look cool on a helmet? Kind of thing. And it does. I think it looks really cool. I do really like it. And like you said, I do like that they kept the chrome, not going back. That was introduced in 2016, was it?
I know.
I think it was 2016.
It feels super recent to me. I know it's been a few years.
Yeah, I think this will be the
another
fourth
sign
year
of
wearing
being
it.
old. Like when you're like, oh yeah, the new, I'm like the new chrome part, and you're like, yeah, that's not all that new.
No, I think this will be the fourth.
Relatively speaking, when you're talking 75 seasons, 4 years, it is still relatively new. But,
right. So there you go. So hopefully everyone likes it, and we will. I'm sure. Well, I know there'll be things with these logos on it, so there'll be the ability to buy these things in some way, shape, or form will be happening throughout the summer and early fall as the season ramps up. So hopefully everyone likes that and is happy with the review. We'd love to hear your remarks, so leave a comment or send me an email, and just let me know what you think of the helmets, the 75th season stuff, anything. Again, wilsonbulldogsfootball@gmail.com. All right, so the final thing to talk about this evening is going to be stuff relating to 2020. So 2019 season isn't even here yet, but we're still talking about a year plus from now, 2020, and that's from what happened with the Lancaster-Lebanon League and their realignment starting with the next 2-year cycle, which begins with the 2020 season in the fall of 2020. And we mentioned 2 months ago on episode 1 of this 5th season of the Bulldog Hour that the athletic directors had voted to switch football from 3 sections to 4. And then a few weeks later, the principals agreed and it was adopted and official. Lancaster-Lebanon League football is switching from 3 sections to 4 sections, which is a big change. It throws a wrench into some things. Actually brings back the possibility, though, in the future of the Berks League joining Lancaster-Lebanon League. I think that actually opens up the door a little bit wider than it had been, because you run into some scheduling issues, as you're going to see here.
Right, and that we mentioned that probably a year or so ago when that was being thrown around, and I said, because it was an interesting thing, and it was pretty much shot down, but not just me, I'm not saying it was my idea, but the one thing I remember distinctly thinking and saying was that there will be a push for that if and when teams have scheduling problems,
right? Because
that is what has prompted the Berks League to be open to those ideas of kind of looking. The LL, like in terms of especially some of the smaller schools, haven't experienced those same things. Like the one that pops to my mind all the time is Wyomissing having to travel up to, I believe it was Mifflin County to play the 6A school,
right?
Who they beat.
But
those scheduling conflicts. I know Berks Catholic has scheduling issue. Like those types of things.
ever present.
Right, in the Berks League. If that permeates into the LL League, then you might be looking for a more permanent solution than trying to find people to fill your schedule every year, or at least every other year, and at worst, multiple times. Trying to not being able to get people on for the 2-year cycles. Just trying to fill in those single games.
Yeah,
that's really tough on athletic directors then.
Yeah. So we could see that starting, as soon as, next year, 2020, for the LL teams, because of the way these sections are going to be set up. You're only going to have 5 league games, which means you need 5 non-league games. It was tough enough when they forced, for this 2-year cycle, an extra non-league game, but they fixed that by saying, hey, you're going to do a crossover game. Right. And, they're still going to mandate that. So there's still going to be 3 non-league games and a crossover game, but then we got to squeeze in another non-league game to satisfy the full 10-game schedule. The way it sets up now, and this was announced literally, I think, like the day after we did our last show, Paul Roberts from WEEU announced that Wilson and Exeter would be playing starting in 2020. And it was announced by him that it would be September 11th, 2020, the first meeting. That would be game 3 of the 2020 season. Wilson will travel to Exeter and Don Thomas Stadium on September 11th. I'd expect Central Dauphin to stay on the schedule in game 1, although that's not confirmed. This is just my conjecture. Then Wilson would host Governor Mifflin most likely in game 2. Again, not confirmed, but from everything I've heard during the interviews over the last 4 years, I don't think Wilson Mifflin's going away anytime soon.
I don't think anybody wants it to.
And they want it to be Labor Day weekend. They like having it Labor Day
I know
weekend.
There's a lot of people who enjoyed when that was the opening game. Again, things that make you feel old. We remember it being the last game, right? But that went away a while ago. And then it was that opening game, and that was really cool when, that was that opening game. Now I think both sides seem to be in agreement that they really like it being that Labor Day weekend, because minus flash flooding, you are going to get massive crowds.
Yeah, that wasn't great.
Yeah, oh my gosh.
Not a great time.
Yeah. So hopefully we can avoid that this year.
Yes, if we could, that would be great. That'd be great. So game 1, Wilson at Central Dauphin, likely. Game 2, Wilson versus Mifflin, likely. Game 3, basically confirmed. I haven't heard anyone debunk it or say no. Wilson at Exeter. Then we have a spot open, and Wilson should be in line to most likely host that game, I would think, because if you have 4 non-league games,
ideally
you do 2 and 2.
But
you would think. That only gets dicey depending on how the LL does the crossover games and then the non, because when you play your league games now, you get 3 home and 2 away.
Right. There had been
or 2 home and 3 away.
There had been talk about them forcing the 2. Again, this was all talk, but about forcing the second crossover game, which they did not.
Yeah, they did not go that direction.
I feel like they kind of left themselves that option to, if they're having scheduling issues, they can be like, oh, well, we'll put in that second crossover game, which again, teams don't want to have to go look for teams to play. The other things teams don't want is being told they have to play certain so-called crossover games, where they're essentially playing non-league games that they don't have control over, which they don't like.
No,
teams like to your league and section, whatever, in LL, we just number them, one in mid-pen, they name them and stuff like that. But your section, those games are obviously pretty well set, but having your non-league games dictated to you through crossover games is not ideal. And I just mean that, like, it doesn't seem like lots of teams like that, even though they do produce some good games. Like, like Mannheim Central Wilson is a lot of fun to watch. I'm not coaching and prepping for that game on either side, so
even though it's not mandated a second crossover game, a lot of the non-league games are going to be between LL teams.
LL teams do that already.
Yeah.
Like, they already do a lot of that.
So we've seen in the past Warwick playing some of the Section 2 teams. And
when you see, So
we don't know who Wilson's 4th game is going to be, is what we're saying. Right. But odds are it being someone from the suburban Philly. District 1.
Right.
That's the likelihood that's been thrown about. So you're talking about probably one of the downtown schools or possibly Coatesville. That's where the direction it would look, unless it ends up being another LL team. But again, I don't know that Wilson's going to go that direction because they're already playing all the biggest LL teams in league play.
I don't know that they'd find a taker in LL either,
Right.
because the one that would is forced to in Manheim Central,
right?
And like who else is
and probably in terms of recent success, the next most likely candidate would be Cocalico, and I'm not sure anyone wants to do that. So
I mean, it would be interesting to see if another mid-pen team stepped on there, because we have doubled up on the mid-pen for a few years.
Yeah, we played CD East, we've done Harrisburg. We have Central Dauphin right now. Would anyone else show up? Or what about
this? Is me, and I have not heard this. Right, it would be interesting to see like a Cumberland Valley or something like that.
Yeah,
I don't know that either side would want that.
I threw that out as a suggestion, and the talk immediately turned to suburban, to District 1, to Downingtown East, Downingtown West, and Coatesville, because
which is
of their league situation. So
right, which is interesting now though, because that used to be thrown out there because we wouldn't face that team until a state championship in theory,
right?
Or like for Parkland in the scrimmage. Now, Parkland in the scrimmage still would appear that way because of the
way that they move things.
Like some of those things where, we wouldn't have to face them again until the state championship game, which is, that's a problem for future Wilson.
Right.
But like, that's not the case anymore. I mean, they'd gladly meet them in the state semifinal.
Yes.
You're playing one of the Downingtown teams, and you're like, oh no, we might have to play them twice. Well, you know what? If you're playing them at the end of November, that's a good.
Yeah, it's amazing what calendar context will do for feelings. So who are the 5 teams that Wilson will play in their new Section 1? Well, that will be the obvious ones: Hempfield, Manheim Township, McCaskey, and Penn Manor. Those are your other 6As with Wilson. Now, for the next 2-year cycle starting in 2020, it's going to be Cedar Crest, which I think is the only team that got kind of screwed over in this because they requested to be in Section 2.
Right.
And they did not get it.
I see that they're also listed as 6A. I'm not sure, but I know that they are relatively close to that cutoff.
They are, and that could change because we'll have this coming fall, or I think they usually put it out in December, the new numbers for the PIAA alignment structure will come out.
That will be interesting, just in the sense of
if Warwick jumps back up to 6A and Cedar Crest drops to 5A.
Right, because of Cedar Crest being that 6A, like Wilson's league schedule, while only 5 teams, is all 6A schedules.
Right.
So,
which is probably why they did it that way.
Oh, it's absolutely, yeah.
Despite Warwick being the stronger program at this instant over the last few years, Cedar Crest not as strong, but they went pretty much by enrollment, at least for the top 2 classes, because I believe the new Section 2 is all 5A schools. Now, not all of the 5A schools, but Section 2 is all 5A schools. Yeah. Just like Section 1 is all 6A schools, but not all of the 6A schools. So, all right.
Getting all fired up.
Just punching the microphone. All right. So, real quickly here, let's take a look at the class of 2020 recruiting. How is that going for our young men who are going to be seniors this coming year? And let's see if I can pull it up here. And let's start with our offensive lineman and defensive lineman. We got 2 of them on this list here. We'll start with Adam Venino. He's been visiting schools, potential locations for him to continue his athletic and academic career, including at Lehigh and also Villanova and Lafayette. So Adam Venino is taking visits to some schools in and around South Central, Southeastern, or I guess Eastern Pennsylvania. So good visits for Adam this spring: Lehigh, Villanova, and Lafayette. Then let's jump to Avanti here. This started with a big bang back in February where he visited Virginia Tech. Oh yeah, that's probably a good idea. So let's show that. So I didn't show Adams here, but let's show Avanti's. I'll try to bring Adams back up then. But here, Avanti, Virginia Tech visit. He's also been to Connecticut, Syracuse, and Pitt. That's unfortunate. That's unfortunate, Avanti. But
It's
good for you.
Good for
Like,
him.
I'm
Good for
I'm
him.
very happy. Anytime Wilson players getting looks
I
from
believe
D1
that's
schools.
a picture with Public Enemy #1.
Yeah, right now. Yeah, if you're
the walking, talking Avenger spoiler.
Yeah, don't LaShawn McCoy just got to stay off social media, man. Not good, not good. So a lot of big visits for Avanti, and he's sporting a lot of different number 38 jerseys here as his recruiting ramps up. It'll be interesting to see what happens with his recruiting throughout the summer and into this fall. And then the last one here that's been making visits is Adam's line mate Nate Keller. He got his first offer to play at Ottawa University. He's also taking visits to Marist and New Hampshire. So, a couple Wilson players, at least 3 of them.
It's a pretty awesome picture of the stadium.
Right,
there.
that is really
that's
cool.
Really cool.
So visits and offers for a few Wilson Bulldogs rising seniors in Adam Venino, Nate Keller, and Avanti Lockhart. And we'll keep you updated on that when they get more offers, take more visits, or when they finally make a verbal commitment. Of course, signing day will not be until February of next year. So a lot of cool stuff for some, future college football players. So fun stuff. It's cool to see. I love when they send that information out. And make sure you guys are tagging at Wilson Bulldogs on these visit announcements on Twitter or Instagram so that I can make sure that I retweet them and we talk about them here on the show to let more people know about your recruiting, because a lot of people are interested in it. I know some people think that's crazy, but a lot of people get very, very interested in high school and collegiate recruiting, the recruiting process. So last thing here, a couple announcements for the next show that I talked about at the top of this show. In June, when we have our next show, we're going to be recapping some events that are coming up this summer, literally a few days before our next show. And that is a fundraiser for the team is on Friday, June 21st. That is the annual golf tournament run by the football coaches. We've got information on that for you. That's actually up on the blog.
And I highly recommend that. It's a lot of fun. It's a good time. You get to go out with some friends and have a good time on a Friday afternoon, and play some golf, and the food's good, like all that stuff. It's I highly recommend it. They usually get a pretty good turnout, so you want to make sure you talk to Mr. Bender and get that. Get your registration in and everything, but I really do highly recommend that. It's a lot of fun.
This year will be the 21st annual Bulldog Golf Tournament. Again, it's Friday, June 21st of this year at Manor Golf Club. The shotgun start is at 1 o'clock. Cost is $80, and that gets you the greens fees, a cart, food and beverage, balls for the range, chance for prizes, and just know that you're helping out the Wilson football program.
Yeah, I played the last few years, and then I missed last year because I was coming off of 4 days of jury duty and leaving to drive through the night to Florida.
Still waiting for a reason why you didn't play.
Yeah.
Is it because it was the first time I ever went?
It's probably because, well, yeah, that's actually it. We'll go with that. We'll go with that. So instead of saying something that.
So you can get a foursome together. You can also be a whole sponsor, another way to offset costs and raise money. Yep. If you can't make it, or you run a business, or you just want to show your support, again, you can find all this information on the blog, which is wilsonbulldogs.blogspot.com. I also posted it on the Facebook page, and I believe actually I have all these PDFs that you can print out and mail back to Matt Bender on bulldoghour.com. I believe it's on the homepage. You can go check it out there. So we want to make sure this event fills up, and it's it's rapidly approaching. It's less than 2 months away. So also in about 2 months, actually the day before the fundraising golf event is the team's annual 7-on-7 that they host at the Wilson Athletic Campus in and around Gursky Stadium. They usually welcome like 8 to 12 other teams from not just Pennsylvania, but from surrounding states as well. And it's a good time to see very early returns on your rising players, who's going to step up and be like this year. Wilson needs to replace a quarterback. Avanti's back, so we don't need. We're going to try to find another running back with Elijah moving, but Avanti back, you don't necessarily need to have a bunch of guys you're trying to figure out, because you got one back, but there's there's a lot of places on defense that we're going to have to fill in some holes, and it'll be interesting to see where those guys are, what to-be seniors are going to step up, what underclassmen are going to step up, and what do some guys that didn't get much time last year, see what they can do when given the opportunity. And the first chance for the public to see that, if you want to sit in the bleachers and watch, is on Thursday, June 20th. It starts, I think, usually like I want to say 9-ish in the morning, and they run I think 3 or 4 sessions. So you'll get to see Wilson play. I believe it's 4 teams, 2 in the morning and then 2 after lunch, and it's around the Wilson High School campus. Wilson's almost always on Gursky Stadium, and it's a great thing to see if you have free time on a Thursday in the summer. Literally, maybe the first day of summer, it may be, and check out the Wilson football team. Your first look at the 2019 squad. And that will be, again, Thursday, June 20th. All right. Well, I think that... Oh, in a month from now, a little bit closer, the Tri-County All-Star Game is happening Friday, May 24th. That's the Friday of Memorial Day weekend at Rattel Stadium, which is the campus of Manheim Central. Wilson had 3 players picked, but only one, quarterback Anthony Futrick, is going to be participating in the game. So if you can't make it, BCTV will be broadcasting the game.
Is that through Bruce?
That is through Bruce Badgley.
And his work.
Right, yeah.
BCTV obviously is helping support.
Bruce Badgley is the one that spearheaded this. He's the one organizing it. He's the one running it. He's going to be on there commentating, and I'm going to be a part of that broadcast live from Manheim Central for the 2019 Tri-County All-Star Game featuring Wilson Bulldog quarterback Anthony Futrick. All right, let's just double check, make sure we got everything. Okay, one last little thing here to put out there. It was on the show where we talked about it last show at the end of February, that at the end of March a new show would be debuting, and that happened on March 31st, and that was the My Wilson Football Story show, which was a lot of fun to do. Hopefully a lot of you got to watch it. It was me sitting down with Chad Henney, and he talked about, I had him talk about every game from his Wilson football career. It was a lot of fun, and it's available on YouTube. It's on the Facebook page. It's almost 2.5 hours long, so it's not short, but there's a lot of highlights in there. There's pictures. It was a lot of fun to do. A lot of work, but a lot of fun to do.
Yeah, that's awesome. I know I was talking to you through that process, and I know you put a lot of time and effort into that, and it was great that Chad, twice in this offseason,
right, yeah,
has been willing to
give up
his
great
time and energy. He's been great to work with, so thank you to him as well for helping us and allowing us to do those things. But it's just a cool insight into one of the bigger figures in the program's history, to kind of get his insight in some of because we all take different things away from different eras, and it's just interesting hearing some of the other sides of the story. I mean, I guess same side, but you know what I mean, like just different takes on the same stories and how he remembers them and things like that. It's pretty cool.
Yeah, it was very cool. It was a lot of fun to do. And I'm looking forward to doing the next version of it. And if I can find where my slide is for it,
plus you get to relive that 2000.
Right. Yeah. That was the best part of doing Chad's story first, was that it includes me for a large chunk of that. I was on those teams, so I have a lot of information. But so I have my second interview. I haven't done it yet. This is just an announcement that it's coming. So I figured let's make that announcement here. And it shouldn't be a surprise to anyone that this person has a lot of knowledge about the Wilson football program. And that will be one Mr. Doc Moyer. He is going to be sitting down with me to talk about his 40 years with the Wilson football program. And he's got a lot of stories to tell. And I've been talking to him a lot recently about his time with the program. And this is all just leading up to me asking him if he will do the show for me. And I think it's going to be a lot of fun. It's going to be way different from Chad, because Well, Doc's not a player, so I don't have highlights of him on the field, but he has a ton of stories to tell.
Yeah, he does. I've gotten to talk to Doc a couple times. I've had him come in and talk to my classes a few times, and just some of the stories there.
Yeah,
man, it'll be a good one. You won't want to miss it.
I just went up to him recently to get some of his. He had scrapbooks from every year that he's been at Wilson. News article cutouts and pictures and programs, and I'm borrowing them to continue my documentation for the Wilson Football Archive. And he's just telling me stories, and I'm just like, don't waste these on me now. I need to be recording these. So we're gonna sit down hopefully sometime in the next 4 to 6 weeks, record an hour or two with him, and then throw something together and then debut that for the second episode of My Wilson Football Story. But I think he's a great one to have on.
Yeah, that'll be a cool one. And it's also a different perspective again of a lot of things that people are aware of or maybe even not aware of, but it'll be fun.
So I don't have a date for that because it hasn't even happened yet, but hopefully
and it's going to be a lot of editing.
It is going to be a lot. There's going to be a lot to do, but again, hopefully before the season starts, hopefully midsummer, I will have the second episode of My Wilson Football Story, a sit down with John Doc Moyer. All right, now I think that's pretty much everything. I mentioned shirts and merchandise available at bulldoghour.com, or you can see them in person at May's Sandwich Shop. Milestones, we said this 2 months ago, but I'll say it again. Defensive coordinator Ernie Wolber is sitting at 195 wins, so another average Wilson football season will put him well over 200, and a season that many of us hope they have will put him closer to 205 maybe plus range, which is where we'd like to be sitting when we're talking here this time next year.
Maybe we can celebrate that maybe in September sometime. That would be fantastic, right?
Oh, absolutely. Absolutely. All right. So again, like us on Facebook, Twitter, Instagram, follow us there. Wilson Bulldogs, Wilson Bulldogs Football, Bulldog Hour, Mr. Raffoff or Mr._Raffoff at Coach Joe Mays. A whole bunch from us coming in the future. We'll be back in 2 months. Justin, you got anything else to add before we leave for this time?
No, I mean, like we said, we've kind of been. There's a lot of the same topics from last time. A couple updates and things like that. We know the guys have been working hard in the off season, and will continue through the spring. I know some of the other guys have been having some success in other sports. Keep that up. Keep working hard. But we look forward to the things that they'll be able to develop this summer. So
yep. And lastly, I'll throw it up one more time before we go. A look at the helmet coming to Gursky Stadium and surrounding athletic fields in the Berks, Lancaster, Lebanon area. Well, and we're going to Springford, so down that way too, Chestmont, this season. I'm looking forward to that, but I think that's it. So for Justin Raffoff, I'm Joe Mays. Thanks for watching or listening to the second episode of the Bulldog Hour's 5th season. We'll be back in 2 months in the end of June to recap the 7-on-7 and the golf tournament. But until next time, remember, go Bulldogs.
Thanks for listening to this week's episode of the Bulldog Hour. Want more Wilson football? Follow the show on Facebook, Twitter, and Instagram. Subscribe to the podcast on iTunes and SoundCloud. Or visit www.bulldoghour.com. The Bulldog Hour is a featured program on jmnjrradio.com.